I do find that a lot of people are looking for the small activities, like even a tweak in the title, which actually it's a big deal, and a tweak everywhere else. But what YouTube comes down to is click-through rate and average view duration. And it's going to come down to the architecture of the content itself. We teach the perfect video recipe, which is the big idea, the hook, the content, and the transition. And it starts with how good is the topic, a really good topic. Are people interested in it? Its big idea is topic, title, thumbnail. Hook, how great can that first opening 30 seconds be? Hooks can be they could be 10 seconds, they could be a couple minutes, but YouTube themselves give you a specific window inside of your analytics that says how many people are still watching at 30 seconds. So before you get someone to minute 3, you have to get them through the first 30 seconds. So if there's any part of your video you over optimize in terms of thinking about what is said and what is seen, it's going to be the opening 30 seconds. Then the content, be brief, be bright, be fun, and be done. How can you just make it as entertaining, as holding the viewer's attention? How long does my video to be? It doesn't really matter. It's how long, if it's an interesting conversation and people are bought in, then they'll stick with it. But it should, if it ever gets uninteresting, you should trim it out. So how can you trim the fluff and the content? And then finally, this would be another mistake I think people make, is the transition. I didn't say the call to action. The ending, the best call to action you can have on YouTube is to another video. And as a marketer or business owner, many people want to send people to their website or their email list or something else, but YouTube values time on platform and they want people to stay on the platform. So the best call to action is to get someone to start watching your video and then continue to watch videos on your channel.
Yes.
So if you can agitate another problem at the end of the video, if you could say, so here's the thing, we just learned about the best camera for YouTube, but if you don't have good audio, camera doesn't even matter. In fact, audio is probably more important than the camera. So click or tap the screen to check out our 5 best microphones in 2023, and then just end the video. My name is Sean Cannell, founder of Think Media and author of YouTube Secrets, and you're on Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode. Sean, thanks for having us to one of your world headquarter secret locations, buried deep within the hills of Las Vegas.
That's right.
I usually ask my guests, how did you get this job?
Yeah, I teach people video, but I feel like I didn't choose video, video chose me. And, I'm a person of faith. It was in 2003 that I just started volunteering at a small church an hour north of Seattle. And I was a part of a small youth ministry, like 6 kids were there. But the youth pastor handed me a camera and Adobe Premiere software and said, hey, start making videos for Wednesday night youth group. And they were terrible, and as they would be. And technology was archaic. I had a Canon HV30. You might remember some of these mini DV tapes and Firewire cable capturing minute for minute into Adobe Premiere on a PC that would be laughable in terms of the speeds we have today. There was no Mac M1 chips. We weren't even really using SD cards. I was just capturing off the tape. So I found video. I've been in video now 20 years in video production, and predominantly on YouTube. We teach cameras and lighting and tools for content creators. And that has evolved into also teaching YouTube strategy and things like that. And so in a way, video was just sort of placed in my hands, and I just didn't let go and just continued to voraciously learn, practice, put in 10,000 hours and then 20,000 hours and then 30,000 hours, and then just trying to pass along the shortcuts and mistakes I've made so that other people could figure out how to use YouTube to build their brands.
Yeah. Always asked, how do you know what you want to do? How do you know what your path is? Call it your destiny, or, the fish to water, bird to the air, that kind of thing, your element. What was young Sean thinking about? And I ask this with the context of a lot of people who watch and listen, and it's just kind of age agnostic, I found. Like, yeah, there's some people coming right out of school wanting to know the answer to that question, have it all figured out. But there's also people who are halfway done and they're rethinking their passion because they're not happy where they're currently at, and they want to either reinvent themselves or start the side hustle. They see this content creation thing as a viable option. So what was young Sean thinking about? Like, go back in the chronology, even younger than youth ministry. Like, did you have signals about what you wanted to do or what you were good at?
Yeah, there was some signals. I got on the radio show. I went to King's High School in Shoreline, Washington, and they had cross rock radio. And so we had Adobe Audition. And so we were cutting in sports broadcasts, and we would cut in different, audio layovers and create commercials. So I was mixing audio.
How old were you?
That would have been sophomore year. I also really resonated with photography, and I did black and white photography. We were in the dark room. And
So you were creative.
So I was definitely creative and grew up, also got into skateboarding and snowboarding, ski bus every year, snowboarder for 10 years.
Okay.
But all these skateboarding and snowboarding videos was a bunch of progressive hip hop and EDM and rock music, Seattle. So you had Nirvana, grunge.
Yeah.
And so I was also DJing vinyl records for a while, like Newmark decks and diamond tip needles. And I was into underground hip hop and all this kind of stuff. So the mixed media, this is all preceding the ability to blend film and photos and music on Reels and TikTok. It was just early days, but media itself, I just love creativity, the music scene, and kind of also a little bit of that rebelliousness of skateboard and snowboard culture, which is that leans more entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Make it yourself, DIY it.
As soon as you said surf, skate, snow, I got an instant picture because music, because 90s especially. I mean, that was my life too, as a little Grom growing up in Southern California. Camcorder,
Yep. Riding
a skateboard.
Fisheye lens on there.
Yeah, filming my friends do tricks, or even BMX, or, whatever the latest stunt was. That paints a perfect picture. And yeah, it was like the groundswell. It was like the genesis, really, of this content creation movement. I feel is really started in surf, skate, snow in a big way. That's awesome. Okay. And so you were able to then parlay that into maybe refining that or honing that into something that was able to be used more utility at your youth group, and then turn it into content. Talk about did your parents give you direction, or did they say, hey, Sean, maybe you ought to think about getting a law degree or become an accountant, something more stable? Because the creative arts, they're fun and they're amazing, but not always profitable. Did you get pushback at all?
I might have, but the answer would probably be no, because I can't recall. I honestly think that they were incredibly encouraging, and maybe leaning towards now that I look back, I'm like, I didn't really feel much pressure from them at all.
Yeah. What did they do? What did your parents do?
So my stepdad, my parents got divorced at 3. My dad was an artist, and is now living in Bellingham, Washington, woodworker. He was the one who leaned me way more into the creative, really into just music and kind of coffee and culture, and going around the city and going to Saturday market. And we're Scottish, Irish roots. So just a lot of art, weaving, and he weaves wood. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had that side. But he was always kind of struggling with the starving artist thing. Then on the flip side, my stepdad, Phil, was in telecommunications, has his own company, has had his own company, and has been a very successful entrepreneur. And we didn't, though, really talk much about business or entrepreneurship. And there wasn't a lot of pushing, and they were just very supportive and encouraging, but there wasn't any pressure. They wanted me to get good grades, but I didn't really experience wrath if I didn't. And there wasn't really pressure to go to college. And, I ended up getting expelled from Christian high school and then finishing out high school at the local community college.
So pause. What got you expelled?
Oh, well, I mean, the truth is a lot of extreme living by anybody's standards, despite a faith base. But between my junior year and my senior year, I was partying so hard. The word got around that I was partying very hard. Mm-hmm. I broke into the school, which just climbed to like a third window and let people down into the locker room to it was really dumb, as a lot of things are. What for? But we were just drank some alcohol in there and then left, had like a boombox. But the thing that was really the main instigating event was I was in a pornographic video with 3 girls. Okay. And so that'll do it.
That's clearly against school rules.
That's against school policy. And so there was one of the things that they said there's Sean's reputation and different events, whether we could verify them or not. There's enough if there's smoke, there's probably fire. And so
That doesn't align with the school's
that
values.
doesn't align with the school's values.
Yeah.
So between my junior and senior year, they said, you're not coming back. So I ended up going to, I did have good enough grades and enough credits or whatever to go to running start at a community college to finish out high school. And from there, I ended up going to Bible college. I got actually very deep. Before things got better, they got a lot worse. And I just got into rave culture and hard drugs. And
What were you escaping from?
I had a lack of vision, I think, most of all. You know, it says in Proverbs that where there is no vision, the people perish, or they cast off discipline. It's a famous Bible verse that's pulled into a lot of life, family, business. Like once vision is gone, you're going to lose the team. What was your team pushing for? Do you have a clear vision?
Yeah.
Do you have a strong vision? And I know for me, I just hadn't found my thing most of all. I knew what I didn't want was just the American dream.
You didn't want that.
I did not just want, I was like, I'm just not pumped about just a picket fence and like just living this kind of Truman Show life. And
punch a time clock.
yeah. And so I hadn't actually found something to get me excited yet. And what eventually lit that fire wasn't ultimately creativity or business. It was actually my faith itself, and actually getting a connection that, you know, I believe we were made in the image of our Creator, created to create. So I got, you know, tapping all the way into the source and really discovering the Bible for myself. That lit the fire that fuels everything else. My business, my creativity, it's all driven by my relationship with the Creator. And so, but yeah, preceding that, I was just running because I really didn't see much. I had not found purpose. So
A rudderless boat.
rudderless with lack of purpose. Why not?
Wind blows you this way.
I mean, it's like, look, eat, drink first. Tomorrow we die. So no purpose. It was like, well, we might as well just party hard and chase girls and whatever. And kind of like the prodigal son, once I had pursued that, I feel grateful that I hit a dead end. During that in between time, after I got expelled, I experienced this one night where we just did copious amounts of drugs, multiple days in a row. My friend got lost. We got stuck in the city. We ended up at some random house, and there was drugs and ammo and cocaine all around. And it's 7 a.m. and people are just getting started partying, and I'm coming down off drugs. And then I kind of had like a moment of clarity. Like, this is not the best situation to be in. I may have made a few poor decisions to lead me to this moment. And then that started to begin a turn the other direction, which led me to Bible college first, just for a 1-year certificate in Bible. And then I began to catch I think all these ingredients: creativity, a pull towards entrepreneurship, or, you know, building something and getting out of obviously toxic living. I started to get onto a different path.
Yeah, I mean, call it fate or luck or a combination. I mean, you're lucky you didn't lose your life.
No doubt.
It's crazy. A lot of people don't come out of that tailspin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable, actually, that you were able to pull out of that. You describe it very succinctly, but I'm sure it was, you know, hell and back several times.
Yes.
Crazy. What advice would you give to people who might feel that they're currently in some trajectory of that tailspin? Maybe they're not heading in the right direction. How did you, I mean, you just seemed, you got a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
But like, I just hear the chatter, like easier said than done, right? Like,
yeah, I think that when the moment of clarity comes, you have to make a decision to make different decisions. So in that when I am sitting in this house, which I remember, we happened to be around a lot of gang. I didn't even know how we got here because we lost our friend and we lost the ride to. He's lost in Seattle, so we ended up in a stranger's car being driven to their destination, which was after partying not just all night, but for about 48 hours straight, off of taking multiple ecstasy pills and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff. So I'm very crashed at this moment, and I'm looking at the people around me, and there's like guns on the table and bullets and gangbangers around, and music is bumping and cocaine is there. But I don't feel a pull into that. I'm not like, let's triple down. I'm like, wow. And so the moment of clarity is, okay, wow, I'm in a bad situation. Like this, I made some poor decisions, and my girlfriend at the time, we decided I said, we got to leave. So we just left, No Uber. I guess, we probably had cell phone. We could have called a cab, but we also didn't have a ton of money, whatever. We just started walking.
Talking off on foot. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just on foot. And I just remember breaking down. I'm crying. And I'm kind of being overly harsh on her because I'm like, I really am mad at myself. I'm like, what am I doing? What are you doing? You're a bad influence. They're a bad, what's going on, you know? But it was, and I think that, again, it could have been where after a few days passed, it's kind of like if you ever drank too much, you're like, I'm never going to drink again. But then a few days pass and you do. So it's like, I think that the opportunity of that moment of clarity is, I think, for all of us listening to this, past, present, or future, like every moment we have a chance to make a different decision. And for me, the big unlock was that my willpower, that I should not lean on my willpower. And that's actually why I made a decision to go to Bible college. My parents said, once they saw how depressed I got, I went into a really dark place. They said, hey, what would you think about going to Canada to Prairie Bible Institute for a certificate in Bible? And my mom had gone there, but this was like a tiny school, an hour an hour away from Calgary, in the middle of nowhere. There's 3,000 people in the entire town, 2,000 people in the school.
Yeah.
Super like Mennonite community.
Sounds kind of perfect for your situation.
Exactly. And I would have never gone there. But what I saw that is not as a boring, burden. I saw it as an opportunity. I was like, I need to get out of these circumstances. I need to I just need to make decisions to put myself in the right place. So if someone who's listening, it's like, make a decision to check into rehab, make a decision to switch up your friend group, make a decision to stop going to the places where you're going to get into trouble. For example, halfway through Bible college, I came home for Christmas break, and I still love all my friends. I want to hang out with them. But this was another moment of how weak my willpower was. And I remember I went to this party and we're sitting in a circle. And so the blunt starts getting passed around. And so, I remember time one, it comes by me and I'm like, I'm good. You know what? Mm-hmm. Like I'm a changed man. I'm trying to walk a different path. It's all good for you guys. It's something. First time, let it pass. Second time comes by, I'm good. Let it pass. Third time, okay, give me that, Now, and so what circle are you sitting in?
Right.
So if I realized I have to be more selective, rather than someone thinking I'm just going to be strong. I think that what we want to do is set up our environment in such a way where if our willpower is weak, our environment, which are decisions you can make when you have more clarity. You don't want to be making decisions late into the night when you're hungry, lonely, angry, tired. Vulnerable, and then vulnerable. Someone texts you and you're like, okay, I will. Like if you can make decisions when you're thinking clearly and in your strongest moments, and it's a little bit of wisdom, that was the big difference for me. So then that was good that happened, because then the next 6 months at school, I was like, okay. And that's what got me into the internship. I cold turkey decided to intern in this youth ministry, not because I really had a big vision that I wanted to make an impact there. I wanted to stay out of trouble. So I was like, I was going to do summer school, work at Red Robin, wait tables, and intern. I want to do video or express my creativity or whatever. Yeah. It was just like, this would be a healthy, productive environment. So I also even the friends that I loved, I realized they weren't necessarily the best influence, but I was like, listen, guys, I'm busy. If you want to come meet up at church, cool. But I'm either working or doing summer school or I'm interning at this church. So I just don't have a lot. I wanted to fill my schedule with something productive versus getting pulled into, a path in a circle that wasn't leading anywhere great.
Yeah. I love that. Let me just underscore and restate, because I think you said it very well, but I want to extract that lesson deliberately, which is, I'm hearing you say that proximity to success is such a big deal. And, I'm thinking of that quote that Jim Rohn gets credited with, like you are the sum total of the people that you hang around, whether that's 5 people or 50 people. And so more often than not, that is true, right? The proximity of the company that you keep ends up being, who you become or become like. And you put yourself in a position to win instead of be tempted to go back to your old ways. And the Mennonite community thing, it reminds me, like my favorite show is The Office. And I think of Dwight Schrute, and the, Mennonite community is very much the Schrute Farms, the beet farm, out, the old ways. And again, you can't get in too much trouble, again, putting yourself in the proximity of a town that's only 3,000 people, or, you know, each time you chose proximity to insulate yourself, to protect yourself at first,
Yeah.
and then that enabled you to find the opportunities or really get more clarity as, okay, which direction I want to go. So proximity was your first step. And then the second step was, okay, now that I have clarity, now I can sort of start the engine and start going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a great book by Ken Coleman called The Proximity Principle. And it's that idea. I've continued to compound that. So I heard someone say, yeah, if you hang out with 5 alcoholics, you'll probably be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 people that are obese, you'll probably be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 people that are broke, you're probably going to be the 6th.
Yeah.
And so if I ever want to be challenged in my fitness and my health, in my business, I've continued to compound that proximity principle.
Yeah.
And in the early days of learning creative, it was also, I wanted to get in rooms or events around trying to get on the phone, or can I buy a ticket, or can I go help, or can I go volunteer with somebody who was doing something I wasn't doing, or had a skill set I wanted to learn. I wanted to get around them. I grew as a communicator, from speaking on stage and different things that I now do today, from not just studying great communicators, but even basically apprenticing under them as well as part of my career. So the proximity principle is incredibly powerful.
It resonates with me because that is the essence of this series. I mean, the whole reason I started to begin with is because I recognized that I am not where I wanted to be, or I was not becoming who I wanted to become. And so in order to become like someone, you have to model their behavior. You have to know what they do. You have to do what they do. And then you can, you know, whether that's like, the farmer's market, and you're picking and choosing the certain things that you like, or you're buying all of it, you know, behind the brand, right? Sitting down with the experts who've been there and done that. It's all about learning and modeling other people's behavior so that you can implement it into your own business, your own life, and become who you want to become. So totally resonates with me. I like that. Even gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Okay. So from the youth ministry, you started to kind of get your chops, you honed your skills. And what happened next?
Yeah. So I've been doing video for 20 years, since 2003. I've been doing YouTube for 16, because in 2007, if I did my math right, we started a YouTube channel for the church. And so that's super early. 2 years after YouTube started, 15-minute time limits on upload. So if we uploaded a pastor's sermon for 45 minutes, it had to be 3 parts.
Yeah.
No custom thumbnails.
I mean, really, it's a year old because, you know, 05, it's the 2 dudes that launch it.
Yeah.
And then Google doesn't buy it till 06.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're 07, that's extremely early.
Extremely early.
There's just a handful of videos on the platform at that point.
Yeah.
And some of them are these camcorder following dogs on skateboards and other things.
All kinds of, the weird
Random stuff.
elephants at the zoo is like that first video.
Yeah.
And so super early in YouTube. And then what was really cool about this particular church that I was a part of was they had a whole kind of track of teaching, which was like they had this conference called Powered to Prosper or something. And it was the business, like a lot of people think about the Bible, of course, and its application to family and life and just faith and how we treat each other, which is all the above. But it's much of a smaller niche to think about what does the Bible have to say about business owners and creativity and entrepreneurship. That was actually a lot of things I was learning in those days. And even the senior pastor's wife encouraged me to start a side hustle. She said, you know, you've learned this skill of video and you've shown promise in it, but I was all self-taught and just voraciously learning. And there wasn't all the resources. There was no behind the brand.
Yeah.
There was not, there was like early companies, Philip Bloom, I'm sure you're familiar. I bought his DVD for $300 on the Canon 7D to learn all his settings. And Still Motion was this cool wedding videographer kind of community that made these incredible wedding videos. All their tools and tutorials and some of their training. I found that on Vimeo in those days. So I'm like learning. And so in 2009, I started Clear Vision Media, basically as a solo business owner that had a diversity of offerings. I'd make people's websites, help them with socials early, but mainly do video production, wedding videos, hip hop music videos, YMCA, local ads for local baseball games in Marysville, Washington, local restaurant videos. And So that was kind of the next piece. And then fast forward just into 2000, I think 11, Think Media started 2010. As far as the first upload, August of 2010, I started talking about the camera gear and different tools I was using because there was demand for that. And we started this other project called Think International with my friend Jeff, which was like a faith-based interview show right around 2010. So immediately out of the gate, it was like Church in 2007, that channel. Clear Vision Media was 2009. Think Media and Think International was like 10 and 11. And that put me super early into YouTube.
And review style videos.
Review. And so I started to learn about affiliate marketing, started to make money online, talking about cameras or lenses through affiliate marketing, and started to really obsess over YouTube as the second largest search engine and the search-based opportunity there. And started to have success ranking videos.
Yeah.
And I would also rank, like I ranked for Bellingham wedding videographer. So I was getting all these inbound leads as a small business owner in that regard. I ranked the Mexican restaurant video as you would, zero other restaurants at all were thinking especially. Yeah. And so started to kind of cut my teeth on, even to this day, what we've honed and perfected and expanded on in regards to search-based content, setting up passive income connected. If your videos are getting views for weeks, months, and years to come, and there's a way to monetize like affiliate marketing. And so eventually today I wrote the book YouTube Secrets, and we have online courses that teach this stuff. I was in the trenches for a ton of years. And I also was freelancing during that time. Clear Vision kind of stayed on where I would build out the YouTube channels, specifically kind of for some pastors and authors, taking like their messages and cutting them down into 7 minutes, titling them really well, connecting it back to whether a new book they were launching and or an email list they were building because they had an event or they had. So to the point of proximity principle, one of the things that I also loved about all the above is I did feel that someday I wanted to do this stuff. I wanted to write books, have events, teach, and be an educator. But I love the opportunity to be paid, even if I wasn't paid very much, because I was more into it for the education. If I could do this for others or use their budget on ad spend, and so I had a lot of immersive experience in basically digital marketing and video marketing.
You know what strikes me though? Another lesson I wanted to just extract here is you're an expert, and yet you talk like a learner. You know your stuff inside and out. You've been doing it since back in the day. And yet you have this mindset that strikes me as someone who's still in pursuit of learning, which I think is super important. I think it's worth putting an exclamation mark next to. The opposite side of that is this imposter syndrome, feeling like we're never quite good enough, even though we are. I think that's what imposter syndrome implies. Like we do know what we're talking about. We don't feel like we do. I don't get that from you, but I think there's two sides of that coin, and sometimes they can be familiar. Sometimes we think we don't have enough knowledge when we actually do, but you're actually doing it. But you kind of said it. You're learning from the budgets of other people, and you're not misrepresenting. You're still doing it, but like you're leveling up each time. You're taking that opportunity to continue to get better. And I think that's super important, especially if we're talking about YouTube strategies.
Yeah.
It's intimidating, right? Here we are, 2023, heading into 2024. I've heard you talk a ton about it, but let's rehash a little bit about it or unpack a little bit of these YouTube strategies. If I'm starting from scratch, kind of feels like I've missed the boat. So is now the best time, or is it the worst time, Sean, to start something new?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think if we have to face the facts, there is more competition than ever before. But every day that's true in every industry. Like it's not going backwards. It's always more people are coming on. But I think the good news is there's also more consumption than ever before. 2.6 billion monthly active users on YouTube. 1.5 billion monthly active users just consuming YouTube Shorts. That's a new opportunity. YouTube Shorts is getting 50 million daily video views. A lot of the people that we get to coach and connect with are experiencing a lot of breakout growth from YouTube Shorts, embracing the new thing. I don't think that's where this conversation should start, but YouTube just rolled out a whole bunch of podcast features. And they're going to be distributing podcasts on YouTube Music. So what's wild is in 2023, it is possible to still be kind of a first mover or early adopter. Even Shorts is 2 years old, but the competition doesn't move as fast as people think. So I think YouTube Shorts, podcasts. I think the other thing to consider is maybe just taking your and I's conversation a little bit on faith, knowing that we have stories. We have endless stories at Think Media of brand new channels that are starting in the last few months, stories that are coming in since January 2023 of people that have quickly gotten their first 150, 375, 3,000 subscribers. Larry went into the personal finance niche. Here would be the argument. Is it crowded in the personal finance? Are you kidding? Like, it seems like people go, oh, already Graham Stephan, or Clear Value Tax, or
Dave Ramsey.
It's already full.
Yeah.
Yet he stepped into with a brand new channel. He got 1,000 subscribers in a week. He got 53,000 in 6 months, and he only posted 14 videos. So there is still opportunity to break through. I think some of the best practices would include figuring out your difference, looking for the classic book on positioning. How can you be positioned? You're not going against the number one or number two. You're finding that niche vertical that you can have a concentrated effort on one area, niching down, as they say in online market, the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And so thinking about how can you niche down?
Let's unpack that a little bit more. So what does that exercise look like? What does that process look like? I mean, Seth Godin, always takes me to school and he reminds me, Brian, it's only about two things. You should ask yourself two questions. The first question is, what's it for?
Yeah.
And this is not Simon Sinek's, why movement. It's not that. It's like, what's the goal? What's the point?
Yeah.
Why even do this? What are you trying to achieve? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to earn money? Are you selling something? Do you have an awareness problem? Do you make more people aware of your existence? Like, what's it for? And then once you figure that out, the second question is, who's it for?
Yeah.
And when you figure out who this is for, and like everyone is a wrong answer, right? It's got to be for a particular group. That's what you're talking about, niching down. Once you figure that out, then it's just about how to serve those people best, and then rinse and repeat. But so let's go back to the process of figuring out who it's for.
Yeah.
What's that look like? Are we doing Google searches? Are YouTube searches? Are we looking at landscapes?
So that you should absolutely start with market research, but let's talk about some slices on niching down, because I think people still might feel limited on this. If you were starting a new brick and mortar restaurant chain, it's going to be hard from scratch to go against somebody that's national. So what is one of the ways you could niche down? Well, you could just dominate a geographic area.
Right.
So ways of going smaller, there's multiple different ways. And if you stack these, so geography is one. Many of our loan officer real estate agent clients are crushing their niche markets by doing market updates, tips for buying homes. And they're not trying to just get broad appeal viral videos that the market's crashing. They're just dominating Snohomish, Washington. So that's a geography, even leveraging YouTube, and then also other platforms as well. People following them on Facebook, Instagram, and they're getting more leads and customers as a result. So geography is one. Age is a big one that people don't think about very much. Mm-hmm. Take the thing that you're competing for, but do it for baby boomers, or take the thing you're competing for, but do it for Gen X.
Yeah.
And then gender would be another layer. As soon as you talk about, the number one video podcast on YouTube for Gen Z female entrepreneurs, you're already, just as far as we're in the conversation, like you're going to do pretty well. And that people are afraid to, it's hard to get this amount of clarity, but gender would be another one. The other thing would be show format. Like in some cases, there's a lot of longer form podcast conversations. If you become the 5-minute show and you really stick to that, then that's another way of packaging things in a different way. Some people want a consumer.
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask, what prevents people from niching down? It seems like there's this knee-jerk fear. It's like all of a sudden it's because it's counterintuitive, right?
It is.
I'm instantly limiting, isolating, or even, polarizing, right? I'm ignoring a total piece of the pie, an audience.
Yes.
So why is that a good idea?
Yeah, I think what prevents people is fear. Fear that the market won't be big enough. Fear also so much constraints on themselves that they'll be disciplined enough.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason it's a good idea is it could be the difference between winning and losing. So I guess you could take a risk with the potential of losing. Not that there's a guarantee of winning, but if you... Sun Tzu, the famous military general and author of The Art of War, says every battle is won before it's even fought. So if we're approaching a YouTube channel, we can't guarantee success, but what if I could guarantee you success? What if I could guarantee you could win the battle before you even fight the battle? The reason Sun Tzu said that is he's like, okay, if I sit down, I'm going to look at the entire landscape. Okay, I'm going to look at, it's winter, so that's going to affect things. There's going to be ice. Will the horses be as happy? I'm going to look at the actual landscape. How many forces do they have versus how many forces do we have? I'm going to look at what are our resources, what weapons do we have? And so a lot of times people don't sit down to actually assess all the different angles. So if you assess your strengths, your competitor's strengths, you assess, and then you also just assess facts about you. Like chances are, unless you're a very interesting baby boomer, your niche should be to other baby boomers, probably, or you're Gen X, and maybe you're able to. I spoke at an event recently for all financial service providers, but there were people who were retirement. Okay. And so they only needed a couple clients baby boomers with $1 to $4 million to manage. And with their 1.5% fee that they earned or whatever, like they did not need that many clients. So I'm talking on YouTube. That's I think the other big key of Seth's question of who you're trying to reach and what problem you're trying to solve. If you're trying to get famous, that's a whole different deal than you're just trying to build a niche YouTube channel that attracts enough clients to your business model. Or if you just want to be a micro influencer, there's plenty of people with 5, 10, 30,000 kind of subscriber ranges that can make incredible depending on the business model. And that goes and all of the above. So obviously, this is bigger than this conversation to get in the nuances. But I think for many, it's fear. It's also the uninformed conclusion people have come to that the only way to succeed on YouTube is 1 million subscribers and 10 million views.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts, and so if I niche down too much, I can't get that. And you're like, well, there's a whole world that exists over here in terms of ways to monetize, business models that exist. And so I think that's where things get exciting. And what also gets exciting is if you study marketing warfare and you study positioning itself, you're not going to be, you and I can't start a soft drink and take out Coke. Like that's just we could be as ambitious as possible and ambitious, we could try, again, the amount of money, and we still would probably lose. That's what the book Positioning would teach. And it makes sense. The goal is not to try to take out Coke or Pepsi. It's to be different. And what they teach in really good book, Marketing Warfare, which is kind of a follow-up to Positioning, that you figure out who the number one is. So even if there's copycats of Mr. Beast or whatnot, but the goal is not to just copy Mr. Beast or copy Casey Neistat. You figure out who number one is. If you're in number one position, you just are a defender. You figure out who number two is. If you're number two, that's the only person who should do offense because they're big enough to take away a little bit of the market share of number one. Number three, you're going to do flanking warfare. So you say, I'm just going to do the Volkswagen Beetle. I'm not going to try to compete. Volkswagen shouldn't try to do trucks like Chevy or Ford. I'm going to flank and maybe find one. They're going bigger. I'm going to go smaller. I'm going to go Volkswagen. Mm-hmm. But what's wild is that's only like the top 3 companies. That's what they should either do, offense, defense, or flanking. For 97% of the rest of companies, which is 97% of all of us, like I would argue we're all probably like we're all in the 97% unless we're Disney, Coca-Cola,
Logan Paul,
Chevy, Logan Paul. You do guerrilla warfare, which is finding a slice of the market that the big guys wouldn't even care about.
Yeah.
And so that's where it gets really exciting in the niche down, which again, it's doing something a little bit different. It could be in the format you're going to be. And I just heard somebody I really respect, I saw this quote from them. They said that the influencers who are going to rise the most in the coming years are going to be curators. And I think that's what's fascinating with how much noise there is. There's a whole model on YouTube of faceless channels and automated channels and channels that remix kind of other people's content via fair use. So this is sort of like a platter of things to choose from. If you're going to stack the deck in your favor, you're going to assess this is a powerful point that's only I'm emphasizing lately is I think I've probably said too much. Ignore the competition. Comparison is the thief of joy. All true. Ignore the competition. Don't compare yourself. Just be you, and be yourself and follow your passion and like you can win. Whereas the truth is though, you actually should study the competition.
Yeah.
You should do competitor analysis because again, every battle's won before it's even fought. Why would you take all of your forces and just run them into a trap where they're just all going to be slaughtered?
Yeah.
Instead, you just go over to blue ocean. You go over to maybe some area that's a little bit more uncontested. And one other aspect of figuring out, geography, gender, age, whatever, different demographics, psychographics, niche down your thing, pick something, is also just the TAM, the total addressable market itself. I think where things that goes back to consumption's higher than ever before. Tech, for example, Think Media has 2.2 million subscribers. But I looked a while back at the Canon M50, a little bit outdated now, even the Mark II. But what a camera. For content creators, that was like the camera. Now it's the Sony ZV-E10. Price point, features. There's certain cameras that just have mystique and magic around them.
I have that camera. It's a great little camera.
It's a great little camera. Yeah. And for content creators, it was the M50. The ZV-1 is another one. What was interesting about the M50, though, is if you went and studied how many tech YouTubers or people talking about cameras pulled 8,000, 16,000, 58,000, 150,000 views talking about the M50. We're talking about thousands of videos. Like the total addressable market of interest in that camera, people talking about that camera, and how many angles you could have around the camera, best lenses, cinematography hacks, filmmaking hacks. Is it still relevant in 2017? Is it still relevant in 2018? Like every year, is it still relevant in 2023? It would be actually probably a pretty hot video because there's still interest around it. And so, of course, at some point there's levels of saturation. But when the TAM, the total addressable market, is big enough, not everyone's going to be MKBHD, of course. But the long tail of opportunity, it depends on what are people's ambitions. We are bullish at Think Media that the opportunity for people to create $35,000 a year from a YouTube channel in a competitive niche, 58,000, or go on to build a 6 or 7 figure, channel. Like the long tail all the way down to making an extra $15,000 a year and having fun and writing off your hobbies now because you're creating content around them and keeping your job or going more part-time at your job. I still think the opportunity is unlimited. It's about getting kind of a clear perspective, I think, on the battlefield, on maybe how big the opportunity is, on how the YouTube algorithm works. And that's why we are so excited about the opportunity on YouTube. It's real, but we try to never sell. It's not get rich quick, nor is it even, you might not even get rich. Like, let's redefine that term. But if you are really interested in potentially, instead of making, as Gary Vee always talks about, right? Maybe you leave your $80K a year job and you make 58, but you don't have a commute. Yeah. You live at home. This is super real in 2023, beyond real. It's still, I almost feel like it's still actually wide open if you can have the right approach.
Yeah, co-sign 1,000%. Let me just add a couple things again that I heard you say, because I'm getting in your head a little bit because I consume your content constantly. So I've watched 1,000 other videos to be able to extract what I'm about to say, which is we've also not really talked about or defined MVA or MVP, right? Which is that minimum viable product or minimum viable audience in this case.
Yes.
And this is an important, I think, acronym and calculation too. You alluded to it early, but sort of subtle. If you have a law office, you're an accountancy, or you're a financial planner or whatever, and it's B2B or even D2C, you may not need that many clients. In fact, your capacity might be 10.
Yes.
That's all you can take. And so you're right. You don't need 1 million subscribers on YouTube to crack that nut. You just need the right amount. So what is that minimum viable audience? Like how many people need to see it then for it to yield a certain amount of leads or interest that funnels into your pool, and then you can, do your business, whether that's your $58,000 a year goal or $558,000, agency goal. It's super important. I'm glad that you mentioned that. The other thing that I heard was this sort of secret formula to monetization, which, everyone probably understands AdSense at this point. If you don't, go back and watch 100 of Sean's earlier videos on the Think Media channel about how to do this. But you talk about a camera like that little Sony. Now, I'm guessing part of the strategy behind that is, one, it's a pretty inexpensive camera. If I remember correctly, it's under $1,000.
Yeah, the body might be 800 or 750.
So that there's a strategy behind that too, which is probably, I'm guessing, that instead of having to go out and buy like a Canon R5, which is like a $3,000 to $5,000 camera,
yeah,
which may, if you have an affiliate link in there, is a little tougher to click, or less people will, the TAM on that is lower.
Totally.
Versus the little under $1,000 Sony. So and again, it depends what your business play is. If it's like, I want to have some of that go to affiliate, but I also want the ride the wave of the popularity of the other things to get the views and the interest and maybe get more people to subscribe. You've got several streams of revenue happening at the same time. That's also a very smart play. So if I was back into that, or strategically reverse engineer what your strategy is, it's like, you've got to pick an affiliate product that is going to ring the bell of your audience. One, right? So if your audience is beginners, you can't start with this, gigantic camera that costs, let's say it's a Red something or other, and it's a $50,000 camera. That's not going to work.
Totally.
And you also want to ride the wave of popularity. You talk about the long tail. If I could just maybe expand and define what that is. Like, you're hoping that that's going to continue to last from 2017 to 18, 19, 20. Here we are, 2023. It's still got legs.
Yep.
And you're riding that wave for as long as you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did I miss? Break that.
No. This, one of the ideas, which I would love a viewer to steal, they'd probably take a little bit of passion, a little bit of experience. But you mentioned picking an affiliate program too, for example, that is lucrative enough that the math works out. So even if we're just breaking that down to the long tail, like one channel that I think there are some, but that would be amazing, is talking about nootropics. People talk about Alpha Brain, but this is a big industry. Qualia Mind, you're in Orange County. It's kind of definitely trending out there. Biohacking. Well, and this goes back to, they would say is just as relevant today. The three big online niches, the best ones ever, are health, relationships, and money. And everybody should also tie their content into those in some way. Like, no matter what you do, if it can improve your health, no matter what you do, if it can help you make more money or save money, and no matter what you do, if it actually makes your relationships better, that's benefit extension. I'm kind of spinning off. But thinking about that, so nootropics, and understanding that a bottle of this stuff can cost $100, $200, and the affiliate programs can pay you 30 to 50%. You're just judging the opportunity. You're like, if I educate on this, I'm obsessed with this. And these are one of the things where like any entrepreneur, I have 48 business ideas, and I'm like, I need to stay focused on Think Media, but the next channel I would start would be all on biohacking or whatever.
Sure.
But even more specifically, I just recently got into PEMF mats, pulse electromagnetic therapy, and I not just because of some health stuff, but also because of even just longevity and performance boosting in general.
Yeah. We just did the Hyperice story.
Okay.
And that's sort of in that same, recovery zone.
Recovery zone. So PEMF, Tony Robbins kind of popularized the Hugo, which was a blanket on top of you, and it kind of electrocutes your whole body. It turns your cells from, they would say, raisins into grapes, recharges your cells. He would do it every day he speaks. That's the cheaper version of that's like $8K. The expensive version's like $25K. That's older technology. I discovered this guy, Dr. Pollack. The position is the number one expert on PEMF therapy. Now I've purchased outrageously expensive devices, and I've been testing different ones. And of course, I'm always asking in my mind, do they have an affiliate program? Sure enough, they do. And I've maybe positioning to put some content out about this. But here's what is fascinating is whenever I tap into a niche, talk about long tail, that would be a very niche type of product within biohacking overall, which is large enough. I am shocked by the lack of content about that one thing.
Yeah.
It's not huge. Many listeners probably wouldn't even know. They're not searching for it, but enough are. There is quite a bit of interest. Tony Robbins' new book, Life Force, maybe popularized it.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my friend Ben Azadi. There's the higher dose ones. There's the lower wave ones. There's the higher ones.
You're looking for white space.
Yep.
Blue
And
oceans, yeah.
and we're it's 2023, and I'm like, that's in and of itself. You could either have a channel devoted just to those things, or I think what I recommend is you go, I know we say niche down, but you go broader on the channel, niche on the videos. So you make a channel that's maybe about biohacking. Now your first 100 videos might be on all PEMF, because once people start discovering you, they're in a mindset of probably recovery, sports recovery, something to do with pain, something. And therefore, if they subscribe, they're probably not going to be upset if you're also helping them get better sleep and some other things. And you might not branch out, probably you shouldn't. But if you created a brand called, health hacks, whatever, then you can have niche videos with a wider category of the brand. So that's just another example of.
Well, you're describing Andrew Huberman.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, neuroscience.
Yes.
Talking about, from hormones to supplements, and then to hacking your health, your sleep, and then.
Which is kind of proof. And when you're doing market research, those are the types of, and Tim Ferriss would teach this years ago, right? Who are like the other people that your ideal audience may be following as well. And so if Huberman now has millions of subscribers, I believe. And so you start realizing, okay, and of course, Rogan and biohacking, it's kind of more mainstream, but such a, an industry that's growing, new things are showing up in the market. Some things are mature, but so this is where it gets me excited. You got to find what I would not promise somebody that wants to start a YouTube channel is you can't. I feel so much tension from our audience on this. Some people say, but I want, I want to follow my passion. Whatever happened though to like making videos you love, as opposed to just picking something that has business viability. And I've learned that novice entrepreneurs kind of lean a little bit more towards just doing what they feel like, and experienced entrepreneurs, they lean towards viability. Technically, it should be both. It should be like, what are you passionate about? That there's also viability, because it's cool if you want to be passionate about it, you could start a channel about whatever, but don't come, email me in a year or two when it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the what's it for.
Yeah.
So, if your what's it for is to like have a place to rant or vent or listen to your voice, that totally works. It, mission accomplished.
Yes.
Right? Awesome. But like, if you need it to generate revenue, or you need it to generate leads, or even lead to something, then like you said, it's got to be a little deeper, more strategic thinking.
Yep. 100%.
Okay. Maybe coming around third, headed home. What are the little things we can do? I mean, there's so much information out there. I feel like I'm a little bit, I don't know. I feel like I know what to do. Let me play, the devil's advocate here. So I know what to do. I've read the YouTube playbook back and forth. I know that thumbnails are important. Titles and tags are important. Maybe tags less so these days. Maybe titles more, thumbnails more.
Yeah.
What are the little things that make a big difference that I may not be doing? Not Brian, but
Yeah. A few tactics. The most important, highest lever for success on YouTube, the most important thing for success on YouTube is the videos themselves.
Right.
In fact, videos are more important and views are more important than subscribers. There's a lot of highly subscribed channels that have low views. YouTube is judging video content above all else. So we could come back to that, because I would like to speak to that. But as far as some like rapid fire tactics, 99% of creators are missing out on the opportunity to use their community tab. Nobody uses the community tab. We grew 1,500 new subscribers in 90 days just from posting on the community tab.
Wow.
People listening to this don't even know what the community tab is. This is So it's kind of like a Facebook feed, and you can post polls there. You can post questions, text-based questions. You can promote your videos if you do it properly.
Slide decks.
You could do, like a carousel. And the cool thing about it is, number one, it's clearly being shown to cold traffic because it led to new subscribers. It's not a place where you actually post videos. It's a place where you can promote videos. So I'd say, don't ignore the community tab. Once you also cross 10,000 subscribers, nobody's using YouTube stories. And YouTube stories can also lead to subscribers, and they are a way to promote one video in your library every 7 days is a video sticker you can put on there. You can also promote other channels, and some people we use it to promote people from Think Media to, hey, we also have the Think Media podcast channel. So that YouTube stories is an underutilized feature. I do think now the YouTube podcast feature, YouTube said you're going to have a promotion in podcast areas. There's some kind of Snickers. There's three ways stickers. There's three ways YouTube themselves have said they're going to actually be promoting content classified as a podcast, which the way you do that is you essentially just put videos in a playlist and then assign it to be a podcast. And eventually that's going to also be distributed on YouTube Music, which is a play against Spotify and Apple.
Right.
So would be another tactical thing. But however, what it really comes down to is I do find that a lot of people are looking for the small activities, like even a tweak in the title, which actually it's a big deal, and a tweak everywhere else. But what YouTube comes down to is click-through rate and average view duration. And it's going to come down to the architecture of the content itself. We teach the perfect video recipe, which is the big idea, the hook, the content, and the transition. And it starts with how good is the topic, a really good topic. Are people interested in it? Its big idea is topic, title, thumbnail. Hook, how great can that first opening 30 seconds be? Hooks they could be 10 seconds, they could be a couple minutes, but YouTube themselves give you a specific window inside of your analytics that says how many people are still watching at 30 seconds. So before you get someone to minute 3, you have to get them through the first 30 seconds. So if there's any part of your video you over optimize in terms of thinking about what is said and what is seen, it's going to be the opening 30 seconds. Then the content, be brief, be bright, be fun, and be done. How can you just make it as entertaining, as holding the viewer's attention? How long does my video to be? It doesn't really matter. It's how long, if it's an interesting conversation and people are bought in, then they'll stick with it. But if it ever gets uninteresting, you should trim it out. So how can you trim the fluff in the content? And then finally, this would be another mistake I think people make, is the transition. I didn't say the call to action. The ending, the best call to action you can have on YouTube is to another video. And as a marketer or business owner, many people want to send people to their website or their email list or something else, but YouTube values time on platform and they want people to stay on the platform. So the best call to action is to get someone to start watching your video and then continue to watch videos on your channel.
Yes.
So if you can agitate another problem at the end of the video, if you could say, so here's the thing, we just learned about the best camera for YouTube, but if you don't have good audio, camera doesn't even matter. In fact, audio is probably more important than the camera. So click or tap the screen to check out our 5 best microphones in 2023 and then just end the video. And so either just ending quickly and trimming the fluff on the end, or actually leading into another video. Tactically, I think having a pinned comment and also a clickable link above the fold in the description is another tactical thing not enough people are doing.
With emojis.
With emojis.
Yeah.
And the pinned comment, that is your opportunity to send people to your website or send people to a brand deal or an affiliate link. But your other opportunity there is actually send people to another video.
Yeah.
A lot of people will go to the comment section. If you can have copy that interests, maybe they're getting bored. That's about the time they go to the comment section. They're watching, but they scroll away from the video. They're listening to the audio. They're going to read the comments. And if there's some text there that says, like if you love this, or pointing them somewhere else, you actually might save the viewer from leaving if you could send them at least to another one of your videos.
Underrated tactic for sure. I mean, sometimes I go to the comments kind of like an Amazon review before I watch the video.
Yeah.
Because I want to see how people are reacting, and then I'll make a decision. Like I'll look at the title, maybe the thumbnail, I'll glance at it, but I'll go right to the comments like an Amazon review. And if it's there, or if it's something pinned, then I'm likely to click that. That's super underrated.
I got
Good
one
job.
more for you.
Yeah.
Time codes and chapters. And I think these would just be, we're kind of going through a list of YouTube best practices. Now, what's wild about chapters, and this is the ability to go to your description. You start with 0:00. And then you create a list, and you've seen this maybe on other YouTube videos. If you're listening to this, sometimes you hover over the video and if it's a 10 points, it'll say tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, or if it's a 3-hour video podcast, it'll actually granularly break down the topics, which is very helpful because the argument against them would be, it's going to hurt my average view duration. because someone's just going to, instead of watching the whole video, they're going to skip to the part they want. The argument for them is they probably were going to bail on the video, but now they actually may stay because you are actually serving the viewer. And that's my thinking on them.
And visually, it plots it on the cursor too, so you can see it on the player.
Yeah, you could see it on the
broken down into
player,
bits.
and it brings up the text. There's also an expandable window that allows you to expand the chapters off to the right side. It actually puts kind of like thumbnails next to each one, which was the clip of the video during each part. But while it doesn't seem that there is an exact direct correlation, I've seen it happen a couple times. We get around 3 million views a year from Google, not because I have a good website or a good blog, but just because YouTube is owned by Google, owned by Alphabet, and our videos rank on the first page of Google. And what you'll see is this feature called Key Moments. And there have been a few times where not only do I have a video ranking on the first page of Google, but the key moments are my chapters. Mm-hmm. And this is particularly relevant for interview content, how-to content, and especially education content, which is really where we lean heavily to a lot of business owners, educators, coaches, course creators. But when I think about the channels, Miss Excel, I just talked to her at Social Media Marketing where she's teaching Excel. And so when there's people teaching coding and all kinds of things, these types of things really lend themselves. Maybe you're talking about how to build a car, anything there's stages or steps to. And what's wild is someone goes to Google wanting to know one particular question that probably exists inside of a larger conversation.
A 30-minute video, yeah.
Exactly. So if you're optimizing, this also might be super stressful to the listener because they're like, man, it sounds like a lot of work. Yes, but what is it worth to you to make a very structured, thought through video that you upload on YouTube, that you optimize properly, and you put in the effort for these time codes and chapters that then earns you money and grows your channel for the next 5 years? And when someone goes to Google wondering how to specifically take the dash off of a Honda Accord 2005, and the exact moment of the video where you show them how to do that is being recommended on Google, and then when all of a sudden a new Fast and the Furious comes out that happens to rebuild a 2005 Honda Accord and drop a V12 in it, whatever, the different things can happen where either it's slow and steady or just weird aspects of your video library leads to tons of traffic, tons of awareness. And then again, that could be one pain point that people find you for, but to the point of business model, which it could be, accessory car part company wants to sponsor you, or you talk about how to make money flipping parts from junkyards on eBay in a course, and that leads people into that. So you have all these other ways you could be earning money in the creator economy and monetizing. And then when you have content like this optimized properly, you've done your due diligence to not skip the pinned comment, description optimized, time codes, chapters, and of course, good videos. Like all those little tactics aren't really going to matter if you're lazy on the video side. But they're the difference maker. They're that extra icing on the cake that can help you capture a lot of the traffic coming your way so that it doesn't slip through the cracks. And just, I figure if it's a best practice, why not learn it? Why not implement it?
Sort of a capstone, like final advice. And let's assume that people are stuck, in this analysis paralysis, I think I know what I want to do, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah.
Final advice to those people.
Yeah. I mean, I heard it said that success is 20% tactics and strategy and 80% mindset. So if you're feeling stuck, you're feeling overwhelmed, you worry what other people are going to think, you're stuck in your own head, the first thing is know that you're in great company. Like that is how basically everybody feels or has felt. The emotions of just self-doubt or overwhelmed by also just thinking, does anybody even care? Will anybody care about my content? And you're just like, I see you, like we see you, we hear you. And anybody you look up to or respect or somebody that has started, chances are they've probably experienced those same things. And what they did was they just had to eat the frog. They had to just punch fear in the face, punch perfectionism in the face and start. What I've learned is you cannot steer a parked car. And so if you're listening to this, what I would challenge you to do is actually grab your phone and shoot a video and upload it in the next 24 hours. the thing is that action itself could be a pattern interrupt, because maybe you've been listening to podcasts, watching training videos, maybe you're even watching web classes, or maybe you even bought online courses or stuff. But if you still haven't done anything, you got to break the pattern and you just got to do something. And I think that the opportunity there is, oh, but what if somebody sees that video? Here's the good news. If it's your first video, there is no one there yet. And you can always make the video private or unlisted. I highly encourage you never delete it because it's part of your story. But, you know, my first videos, like I often play my first video, but what people don't understand is like my first videos didn't make it to the internet. They're the ones that are stuck back in that youth group. And so the level of practice and mistakes and being awkward or being boring or being like, I've done it all. Like I've done it all at a multiple that is far exceeds everybody. Like I literally have probably created now 3,000, 4,000 videos, 2,000 on the internet, not counting my client work. And so there's just a level of volume and repetition. Everybody, if you ever try a new sport, you suck at first. As a snowboarder, I remember taking lessons and it was very painful on my tailbone. A lot of, painful on my whole body. You're falling. It's hard to carve. You don't know what you're doing, but you just have to keep showing up to the mountain. If you're trying to learn a new sport or you're trying to go to the gym, it sucks. You're sore at first. You feel really judged. People probably don't care, but maybe they do. But who cares what people think? You got to just keep showing up to the gym. And so I would encourage people to get in the game. And sometimes the best way to start video is actually not YouTube, because YouTube is a little more intimidating than maybe just the Instagram account you already have. Post on your Instagram stories. It expires within 24 hours. Talk to the camera. Put the phone up. Hit the thing and be like, hey guys, I don't know what to say. This is weird. And you put it out there and that will disappear. That's really cool. And the cool thing about YouTube is there is YouTube Shorts now. So YouTube Shorts could be your first couple of videos. So you do have to, it might sound like cliche advice, but you have to start before you're ready. You have to start poop your pants scared. You have to just punch fear in the face and make a lot of bad videos before you get to the good ones. And if you can learn while doing, I think that the biggest mistake people make is they subscribe to Behind the Brand. They order the books and they read them. They listen to the audiobooks and they listen to the podcast, but information comes in with no action. It's both. I also think that some people go to the extreme, like you don't need that. You just need to go take action. I just think it's both. I think that you should be studying and learning while you're also putting stuff out. And what I've learned is that when I post some videos and then I go study marketing more, I go, oh, wow, those are the mistakes I just made in that video over there. And you now have something to evaluate. You have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 YouTube videos. And then you watch another Think Media tutorial and you go, oh, wow, like my openings have been dull and boring and my hooks have not been very good. But if you can create the mindset that believes this is huge for me and I've lived by this, failures are the stepping stones to success. John Maxwell said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So if you have a growth mindset, that's embracing videos that suck, realizing they're all education. They're every time it's a practice. It's a practice and an opportunity. And if we circle all the way back to the niche question earlier, this might sound daunting, but Steve Jobs said that business is a game of attrition. He goes, I just believed that if we just stayed in business, year 6, year 7, year 8, your competitors are gone. Just people don't last, even if they were very successful. This is kind of a dark way to end, but like even the creator economy itself is a notorious place of burnout, and very successful creators have been burning out. That's why we're trying to approach things different. Our theme is built to last right now. Last year is at our best. We're focusing a lot on health and a sustainable pace. All that to say is I just hope the encouraging part is that if you're listening to this, if you get in the game, stay in the game, get coaching in the game, don't leave the game. Keep learning, keep leveling up. Your breakthrough moment, for many, like we were talking about, you were sitting down with Gary Vee and Mari Smith and Lewis Howes 14 years ago. And there's a lot of people 14 years ago that are gone.
Yeah.
And actually every year since then that have came and went, that maybe had a lot of funding, that maybe had 6 figures, 7 figures of funding and people behind them. Maybe they had everything going from them. John Maxwell wrote a book called Talent is Not Enough. talent, somebody might be more talented. I guarantee you, you're listening to this, there's other people more talented than me on YouTube, for sure. But hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. And so if you get in the game, start posting content, stay in it, keep learning, and just have that resilience, I am certain of this. There is a piece of the pie for you. The pie is way bigger than you think. It's not even a fixed pie. Like, the world's a lot more abundant than you think. So if you get in the game, am I guaranteeing you'll be a YouTube millionaire? Yeah, no, probably not. But am I guaranteeing that you actually could make this a side income, quit your job, do this full time, figure out a way to get your piece of the creator economy? The opportunity is more real than anyone even realizes. It continues to grow. The next 10 years are going to be the best 10 years on YouTube, maybe longer, but we could see that far for sure. The market share and the juggernaut positioning that YouTube and Google has, the lead time they have on the content library, the data just came out that more time is spent on YouTube in the living rooms of American families than Hulu and Netflix and HBO Max and the other platforms. That's crazy. YouTube got the Sunday ticket. So the YouTube brand, it just continues to grow, and the future is very clear in the short, near, and long term. So what are you waiting for? The thing is that you could get on for free, use your smartphone, and scale up as you go. And I think the biggest risk is doing nothing. I think it's time to punch fear in the face, punch perfectionism in the face, and press record.